the midst of chaos, with gunfire echoing through the mansion and fear gripping every heart, Nene's courage stood unshaken. Holding the innocent child close, she searched desperately for a way to keep her safe. Her eyes fell on a large woven basket in the corner of the room. With trembling hands but steady resolve, she laid the baby inside, covered her gently with a blanket, and whispered softly, "You are safe with me. I will protect you." In that moment, a humble maid became a shield between danger and innocence. Welcome to Afro Tales TV, your home for rich, exciting, and inspiring stories from around the world. Today's story will touch your heart and keep you hooked till the very end. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, so you never miss any of our amazing stories. Abuja, the capital of Nigeria, was a city of contrasts. Skyscrapers and luxury estates stood side by side with dusty markets and narrow streets. At the heart of Maitama, one of the wealthiest areas of the city, stood a mansion that many people in the neighborhood admired. It had tall white fences, a fountain in front, and green gardens that always looked fresh no matter how hot the sun was. This mansion belonged to Chief Okoro, a well-known businessman who had investments in oil, construction, and politics. Inside that mansion lived not just wealth, but also fear, secrets, and loyalty. Among the many staff who worked there, one young woman stood out. Her name was Nene. Nene was 23 years old, from a small village in Kogi State. Life had not been easy for her. Her father had died when she was only 10, and her mother struggled to raise 4 children. Nene, being the first daughter, had to sacrifice a lot. She dropped out of secondary school at SS2 to help her mother in the farm, and also to hawk fruits on the roadside. Her dream of becoming a nurse faded slowly as poverty tightened its grip on the family. But Nene had one gift. She was strong, hard-working, and loyal. She was the type of girl who never complained, even when she was treated unfairly. She knew that complaining didn't put food on the table. When her uncle, who lived in Abuja, told her about a job opening for a maid in Chief Okoro's mansion, she didn't think twice. She packed her small Ghana must-go bag, hugged her mother and siblings, and boarded a bus to the city. The mansion became her new home. At first, the large compound, the polished marble floors, and the chandeliers made her feel like she was living in another world. She had never seen such wealth before. But as days turned to weeks, she adjusted. Her duties were plenty: sweeping, cooking, running errands, and most importantly, taking care of the boss's baby, little Chiamaka. Chiamaka was only 10 months old. She had round cheeks, bright eyes, and a laugh that could melt even the coldest heart. Her mother, Madame Ifeoma, trusted Nene so much that she left most of the baby's care to her. It wasn't that Madame Ifeoma didn't love her child, she did. But she was the kind of woman who loved fashion, parties, and high society events. She spent most of her time at beauty salons or traveling abroad with friends. Chief Okoro, on the other hand, was always busy with business and politics. He would leave the house early in the morning in a convoy of cars and return late at night, tired and distracted. So, in truth, Chiamaka spent more time in Nene's arms than in her parents'. Nene didn't mind. In fact, she grew to love the baby as if she were her own. When the child cried at night, it was Nene who rushed to soothe her. When she laughed, it was Nene who laughed with her. When she took her first steps, it was Nene who clapped with joy and whispered, "You will be great, my baby." The other maids sometimes teased Nene, saying, "Ah, Nene, you done carry this baby for head-o. You go soon forget say no work you dey do." But Nene would just smile and reply, "This one na innocent soul, if I no love am, who go love am?" The mansion was always busy. Drivers washed the expensive cars in the morning. Cooks filled the kitchen with the aroma of fried eggs, jollof rice, or pepper soup depending on the day. Security guards patrolled the compound with stern faces. Cleaners polished the floors until they shone like mirrors. Nene's day began at 5 a.m. She would bathe Chiamaka, feed her, and dress her in colorful baby clothes. After that, she would sweep the upstairs hallway, dust the furniture, and sometimes help in the kitchen. By noon, she would sit outside in the garden with the baby, letting her crawl on the soft grass while she hummed lullabies from her village. Sometimes Madame Ifeoma would walk past, dressed in a flowing gown, spraying perfume, her face covered in makeup. She would pause for a few seconds, smile at her baby, then continue to her car, where a driver waited to take her out. "Take care of my Princess O?" she would say casually. "Yes, Ma," Nene would reply, even though she was already carrying the child with all the care in the world. Despite the glamour around her, Nene remained humble. She didn't envy the wealth of the family. She only prayed to God each night to give her strength, to keep her family and the village safe, and to bless little Chiamaka. What Nene didn't know was that danger was drawing closer to the mansion. Chief Okoro's success had brought him not just wealth, but also enemies. In Abuja's political and business circles, jealousy was as common as dust in the Harmattan. Some men had lost contracts to him, others accused him of bribery and betrayal. And in the underworld, armed gangs watched his movements with greedy eyes, planning ways to strike. The mansion had security guards, yes. The walls were high, the gates strong, and cameras stood at the corners. But even the strongest walls could fall when greed and guns combined. For now, the household remained peaceful, unaware of the storm preparing to hit. One evening, after a long day, Nene sat in her small room at the back of the mansion. She shared the quarters with 2 other maids, but they were still in the kitchen cleaning. She held Chiamaka in her arms, rocking her to sleep. The baby's tiny hand clutched Nene's finger tightly, refusing to let go. Nene whispered, "Chiamaka, you know no wettin' this life be yet. But I promise you, as long as I day here, nothing go happen to you." She didn't know why she said those words. It was as if her heart sensed that something was coming. The baby smiled in her sleep, and Nene kissed her forehead gently. That night, the moon hung brightly over Abuja, shining on the mansion like a spotlight. The city outside buzzed with cars and laughter, but inside the compound, silence reigned. Guards at the gate yawned, maids slept, and the family rested in their rooms. But beyond the tall white fence, shadows were moving. The night air in Abuja was heavy, carrying the faint scent of rain even though the skies were clear. Inside Chief Okoro's mansion, the family and staff settled into their routines, unaware of the storm about to break. The time was just past 10:30 p.m. The compound was unusually quiet. The guards at the main gate, dressed in black uniforms, sat on plastic chairs, their eyes heavy with sleep. One of them scrolled lazily on his phone, while the other leaned back and dozed. The tall white gates that looked impenetrable during the day now stood like silent sentries in the dark. Behind the mansion walls, the world felt secure. The lights glowed warmly inside the house. Nene had just finished bathing little Chiamaka and putting her into her crib. She sat by the side of the crib, watching the child's tiny chest rise and fall, her lips curved into a peaceful smile. Everything seemed calm, until the silence shattered. A distant rumble of engines broke the night calm. At first, it sounded like ordinary cars passing on the main road. But within seconds, the noise grew louder. Motorcycles and heavy vans, moving in one direction. Nene frowned. "What is that?" she murmured under her breath. She stood and walked to the window, peering through the curtains. Her heart skipped. Down the street, a convoy of 3 black Hilux vans and 4 motorcycles sped towards the mansion. Their headlights blazed, cutting sharp lines through the darkness. The motorcycles moved ahead, clearing the path like hunters. Nene's stomach tightened. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The guards at the gate must have noticed too, because she saw them jump up from their seats, pointing towards the approaching vehicles. One ran to the intercom to alert the mansion security room. The other grabbed his rifle, but his hands shook. Before the intercom could even buzz, the convoy screeched to a halt in front of the mansion. The armed men came out like shadows released from a cage. At least 10 of them, faces covered with black masks, holding AK-47s. Their movements were sharp, coordinated. They didn't look like petty thieves. They moved like professionals. "Open the gate!" one of them roared. His voice was deep, commanding. The guards hesitated. "Open it now or die!" the man bellowed again. The younger guard panicked, raising his gun shakily. But before he could fire, a deafening shot rang out. One of the invaders had already pulled the trigger. The guard fell to the ground instantly, his body limp. Nen gasped and stepped back from the window, her hands trembling. The other guard fumbled to open the gate. He was too afraid to resist. Within seconds, the massive white gate swung open, and the armed men stormed inside like a flood. They spread out across the compound, their boots pounding against the tiled ground. Some ran towards the mansion doors. Others pointed their guns towards the staff quarters. A few remained at the gate, keeping watch. The leader barked orders. "Move fast! No one leaves this place alive until we get what we came for!" The sound of gunfire and shouting jolted everyone inside awake. The mansion, which had been filled with silence moments ago, erupted in chaos. Cooks screamed from the kitchen, maids ran in confusion. A driver stumbled into the hallway, shouting, "Armed men! Armed men are here!" Madame Ifeoma, dressed in her silk nightgown, rushed out of her bedroom, her face pale. "Jesus Christ, what is happening?" Another gunshot answered her question. The sound reverberated through the marble walls, shaking the house. Chief Okoro emerged from his study, his phone in his hand, already dialing the police. His face was grim, sweat glistening on his forehead. "Everybody stay down! Stay down!" he ordered. But fear had already taken over the house. The staff scattered like frightened birds. Some hid under tables, others locked themselves in bathrooms. Through the chaos, Nene's mind went to one place, the nursery. "The baby," she whispered. She sprinted back into the room, shutting the door behind her. Chiamaka stirred in her crib, startled by the noise, her lips curling into a soft cry. "Hush, my love," Nene whispered, lifting the baby into her arms. "It's all right. I am here. I will not let anything happen to you." Her heart raced, but her voice was calm, firm. She knew the child could sense fear, and the last thing she wanted was for her to cry louder. Downstairs, the heavy front doors banged open. Armed men stormed in, shouting. One of them fired into the ceiling, sending shards of plaster falling like dust. "Everybody down!" the leader shouted, his gun sweeping across the room. Madame Ifeoma screamed, collapsing onto the floor. Chief Okoro raised his hands slowly, his phone slipping from his grasp. "We don't want your phones," the leader growled. "You know why we are here, Chief. You've been playing games with us. Tonight, you will pay." Chief Okoro's lips trembled, but he said nothing. His silence spoke louder than words. The men spread through the mansion, kicking open doors, dragging out staff, shouting threats. The sound of boots and gunfire echoed up the staircase. Nene knew they would reach the nursery soon. Her breath came in quick, shallow bursts, but her mind was sharp. She looked around the nursery, searching for a plan. The crib was too obvious. The wardrobe was useless. The bathroom too small. Her eyes landed on a large woven basket at the corner of the room. It was the kind Madame Ifeoma used to keep laundry sometimes. The lid was wide enough, and the inside was lined with soft cloth. Nene's heart pounded as she whispered to the baby, "My little one, you must be very quiet now. For your sake, I will be brave." She laid the child gently inside the basket, tucking a soft blanket over her tiny body. Chiamaka whimpered, confused, but Nene stroked her cheek. "Shh, it's a game. Just sleep." To her relief, the baby sucked her thumb and grew quiet. Nene closed the lid of the basket, but left a small gap for air. She then pushed the basket closer to the corner, near a pile of toys, making it look ordinary. A loud bang shook the door. Nene spun around, her pulse racing. They were here. The door burst open and two armed men stormed inside. Their guns swept across the room. "You!" one barked, pointing at Nene. "Where is the child?" Nene forced her face into calmness. "She is not here." The man narrowed his eyes. "Don't lie to me." He kicked over the crib, finding it empty. His partner pulled open the wardrobe, yanking out baby clothes. "Where is she?" the man roared again, stepping closer. Nene stood tall, though her knees trembled inside. "I don't know. Maybe the madam has her." The man's eyes bored into hers, as if trying to read her soul. He raised his gun, pressing it against her forehead. "If you are lying, I will kill you right here." Nene's breath caught, but she did not look away. "Then kill me, but I have told you the truth." Her voice was steady, surprising even herself. The man hesitated, lowering the gun slightly. He turned to his partner. "She's not here. Let's move." They stormed out of the nursery, leaving the door wide open. Nene exhaled slowly, her hands trembling. She rushed to the basket, lifting the lid slightly. The baby blinked up at her with innocent eyes. "You are safe," Nene whispered, tears brimming. "But we cannot stay here. They will come back." She lifted the basket carefully, holding it against her chest as if it were just laundry. Her mind raced with one thought: I must get her out through the back door. The mansion trembled with chaos. Shouts, footsteps, and the crack of gunfire echoed across the hallways, like a storm refusing to end. In the nursery, Nene clutched the basket tightly against her chest, her mind focused on one single mission: get the baby out alive. Her breath was shallow but steady. She whispered through the small gap in the lid, "Stay calm, my little one. You must trust me. I will not fail you." The faint whimper inside the basket reassured her that Chiamaka was still quiet. For now. Nene knew the front of the mansion was lost. Armed men filled the entrance hall, dragging staff out of hiding, shouting orders at Chief Okoro and his wife. She had seen how brutal they were. She could not risk walking that way. The only chance lay at the back door, near the servants' quarters and the kitchen garden. It was less guarded, a place often overlooked. But the path to that back exit was dangerous. She would have to pass through the long corridor, past the kitchen, and into the open yard, all while armed men roamed freely. She closed her eyes briefly and whispered a prayer. "Lord, give me strength. Guide my steps." When she opened her eyes, resolve burned there. She straightened her shoulders, adjusted her grip on the basket, and stepped into the corridor. The corridor stretched long and quiet, but the silence was deceptive. Gunfire still echoed faintly from the front of the house. Somewhere upstairs, a woman screamed before being silenced by a harsh order. Nene walked quickly but carefully, her bare feet making no sound against the polished tiles. She held the basket as naturally as possible, as though it contained nothing more than folded laundry. Halfway through the corridor, she heard voices. 2 men were approaching from the other end, their footsteps heavy. Her pulse quickened. She looked around desperately. To her left was a small storage room, the door slightly ajar. Without hesitation, she slipped inside, pressing her back against the wall. The men passed by, their voices low but clear. "Have you checked the upstairs rooms?" one asked. "Yes," the other replied. "But the baby is not there. The chief must have hidden her somewhere." "Keep searching. The boss said the child is the key. Without her, tonight means nothing. Their footsteps faded. Nene exhaled slowly, her heart pounding. The words chilled her. So the baby is their target, she realized. This is not just about money. They want Chiamaka. Her grip on the basket tightened. You are in greater danger than I thought, my little one, she whispered softly. But as long as I live, they will not touch you. She waited a moment longer before stepping back into the corridor. The path led her directly to the kitchen, where the faint glow of light spilled into the hallway. Nene hesitated at the doorway. Inside, two cooks crouched on the floor, their faces pale with fear. Beside them stood one of the armed men, rifling through the cupboards as though searching for hidden valuables. Nene's breath caught. She could not pass through without being seen. Then, fortune smiled. The man's walkie-talkie crackled, and a voice barked, "Front gate needs backup. Move now." The armed man cursed under his breath, slammed the cupboard door shut, and stormed out of the kitchen. The cooks looked up, their eyes widening at the sight of Nene holding the basket. "Run," she mouthed silently. They nodded and scurried towards the pantry, disappearing from sight. Nene seized the chance. She crossed the kitchen swiftly, her steps light but determined. The door to the backyard stood only a few meters away. She reached for the handle. Another voice boomed from the hallway. "Did you check the kitchen?" Nene froze. The door was right there, freedom just beyond it, but the voices grew louder. If she opened it now, the creak of the hinges would give her away. Her eyes darted to the corner of the kitchen. A large fridge stood against the wall, beside a cabinet. She squeezed herself into the narrow space between them, clutching the basket close to her chest. Two men entered the kitchen, rifles slung across their shoulders. "Empty," one muttered, glancing around. "Search properly," the other replied, pulling open drawers. "The baby might be hidden anywhere." Nene held her breath. Sweat trickled down her temple, tickling her skin, but she dared not move. Inside the basket, Chiamaka stirred. The faintest sound of a whimper escaped her lips. Nene's heart stopped. The first man turned sharply. "Did you hear that?" The second frowned. "What?" "I thought I heard something, like a baby." He moved towards the fridge, his boots thudding against the floor. Step by step, closer to where Nene crouched. Her mind raced. If he pulled her out, it was over, for her and for the child. At that moment, gunfire erupted again at the front of the house. The sound shook the windows louder than before. The man froze, distracted. "Forget this place," the second barked. "They need us in front. Let's go." Reluctantly, the first man turned away. "Fine, but I swear I heard something." Their footsteps receded. Only then did Nene allow herself to breathe again. She closed her eyes and whispered into the basket, "Thank you for staying strong, my darling. Just a little more." She waited another minute before slipping out from her hiding place. With trembling hands, she opened the back door. Cool night air rushed against her face. For a moment, relief filled her chest. But it was short-lived. The backyard stretched wide and open, lit faintly by the moon. Beyond it lay the garden, then a small gate that led out to the service road behind the mansion. That was her target. But the yard was not empty. Two armed men stood by the garden path, their rifles slung casually, but their eyes alert. They smoked cigarettes, talking in low voices. Nene's heart sank. There was no way she could cross the yard unseen. She scanned her surroundings quickly. To the left, a row of large dustbins stood by the wall. To the right, the garden shed loomed in shadows. An idea sparked. Nene crouched low, placing the basket gently on the ground beside her. She whispered, "Stay here, love. Do not cry." Then she picked up a small stone from the floor and tossed it towards the shed. The stone clattered loudly against the tin roof. The men turned instantly. "What was that?" one asked, his voice tense. "Check it," the other ordered. They both walked towards the shed, their attention fixed on the sound. Nene seized the moment. She lifted the basket and sprinted across the yard, her feet silent against the grass. Every step felt like eternity, every breath a prayer. The small gate loomed closer. She reached it, her fingers fumbling with the latch. It was stiff, as though rust had sealed it. Panic surged. "Open," she begged under her breath. "Please, open." Finally, the latch gave way with a soft click. She pushed the gate open just enough to slip through. Behind her, the men shouted, "Hey, who's there?" Nene darted out, pulling the gate shut behind her. She pressed her back against the cool metal, clutching the basket tightly. Her heart hammered. She had made it out of the mansion grounds, but she was far from safe. The service road behind the mansion stretched empty and dark, lined with trees. The city lights flickered faintly in the distance. Nene took a deep breath. "We are outside now, my little one, but we must keep moving." She started down the road, her steps quick but careful. Every shadow felt alive, every sound magnified. A barking dog in the distance made her flinch. The basket grew heavier with each passing minute, but she refused to stop. She shifted it from one arm to the other, whispering reassurances into the gap. "You are safe. Just stay quiet, darling. I will carry you as far as I must." Suddenly, headlights flared behind her. A motorcycle roared down the road, approaching fast. Nene's blood ran cold. She darted into the trees at the side of the road, crouching low among the tall grass. She placed the basket gently on the ground, shielding it with her body. The motorcycle slowed, its beam sweeping across the road. The rider wore dark clothes, his face masked. One of them. Nene held her breath, her entire body trembling. The beam lingered on the trees, then moved away. The motorcycle revved and sped off. Only then did she allow herself to breathe again. She pressed a trembling kiss against the basket lid. "We survived that one. We must keep going." She picked up the basket and continued along the road. But the reprieve was short. Shouts echoed from behind. The men had discovered the open gate. Their voices carried through the night. "Someone escaped! Find them!" Nene's heart lurched. They were coming. She pushed her legs harder, running now. The basket bounced against her chest, but she held it tightly, whispering, "Hold on, little one. Hold on." The road stretched endlessly ahead, every shadow a possible threat. Her lungs burned, her arms ached, but she did not stop. Behind her, more motorcycles roared to life. The chase had begun. The night in Abuja stretched on like a cruel test of endurance. The sounds of motorcycles and gunfire echoed faintly in the distance as Nene ran, her lungs burning, her arms heavy with the weight of the basket. Yet she pressed forward, guided by instinct, determination, and the tiny life inside her care. Her legs trembled, but she refused to slow down. At last, the distant wail of police sirens pierced the night air. The sound was faint at first, then grew stronger. Relief surged through her veins like a tide. Help was finally near. Blue and red lights flared against the dark road. Police vans screeched to a halt, and armed officers spilled out, their rifles raised. "Who goes there?" one of them shouted. Nene stumbled forward, gasping for breath. She raised her free hand while still clutching the basket protectively. "Please, it's me, the maid from Chief Okoro's house. The baby, she is here. Please, help us." The officers rushed to her side, their expressions shifting from suspicion to shock. One of them gently lifted the basket lid, and when he saw the baby lying there, safe but wide-eyed, he exclaimed, "My God, it is the child!" Another officer placed a hand on Nene's shoulder. "You are safe now. You are very brave to bring her out. Tears welled in Nene's eyes, but she straightened her back. I could not let them take her. She is innocent. She deserves to live. The officers formed a protective circle around her as they escorted her back towards the mansion. Behind them, reinforcements moved to confront the armed gang, whose shouts still echoed in the distance. The mansion was a scene of devastation. The front doors were broken, glass lay shattered across the marble floors, and terrified staff huddled in corners. Yet amidst the chaos, Chief Okoro and Madame Ifeoma stood in the hallway, surrounded by police officers. When Nene appeared carrying the basket, Madame Ifeoma screamed, "My baby!" She ran forward, nearly stumbling in her silk gown. She lifted the lid of the basket, her trembling hands reaching for the child. Chiamaka whimpered softly before bursting into a cry. Madame Ifeoma pressed her daughter to her chest, sobbing uncontrollably. "My princess, my precious one, you are alive." Chief Okoro stepped closer, his face pale with exhaustion and relief. His eyes fell on Nene. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, in a voice thick with emotion, he asked, "You risked your life for her?" Nene met his gaze steadily. "Yes, sir. She is like my own child. I could not let them harm her." The chief's lips trembled. He was not a man known for showing emotion, but tonight, tears filled his eyes. "You saved her. You saved our family." The chaos slowly settled as the police secured the mansion. The armed men had fled when reinforcements arrived, disappearing into the night. The staff were shaken but alive. Yet every conversation circled back to one truth. Nene's bravery had saved the day. Later that night, after the baby was fed and comforted, Chief Okoro gathered everyone in the sitting room. His voice, though weary, carried the authority of a leader. Tonight could have ended in tragedy. These men came for my family, and we could have lost what is most precious to us. But one among us stood tall when fear could have paralyzed us all. He turned to Nene, who stood quietly at the corner, her clothes torn, her hair loose, her face streaked with tears and dust. Yet she held herself with quiet dignity. "This young woman," he continued, "risked everything to protect my child. She faced death without flinching. For that, we owe her more than words can express." The room was silent. Even the guards bowed their heads in respect. Madame Ifeoma wiped her tears and stepped forward. She took Nene's hands in hers. "From today, you are not just a maid in this house. You are family. My daughter owes her life to you, and so do I." Nene's lips parted in shock. "Madam, I was only doing what was right." "No," Chief Okoro said firmly. "You did more than what was right. You showed courage greater than most men, and I will never forget it." Days passed. The story of the attack spread across Abuja. Newspapers carried the headline, "Armed Men Invade Businessman's Mansion. Baby Saved by Maid's Bravery." Friends, politicians, and business associates called to commend Chief Okoro, but many of them asked about the mysterious maid who had risked her life. Nene's name was on everyone's lips. At the mansion, things changed. No longer was Nene treated as just a servant. She was given her own room, spacious and well-furnished, close to the family's quarters. The staff looked at her with admiration, some even with envy. But no one could deny she had earned her place. One afternoon, as she sat in the garden with Chiamaka playing beside her, Madame Ifeoma approached. She sat beside Nene, her eyes soft. "I used to think of you as just an employee," she said quietly. "But I see now that you are more than that. You love my daughter in a way even I did not understand. For that, I will always honor you." Nene smiled gently. "She is a blessing, madam. Any heart that touches hers cannot help but love her." Madame Ifeoma reached for her hand. "Please do not call me madam anymore. Call me sister. From today, You are one of us." Nene's throat tightened. For years, she had carried the burden of being poor, overlooked, and dismissed. To be called family by people of such stature was more than she had ever dreamed. One evening, Chief Okoro invited Nene into his study. The room smelled of polished wood and leather, with books lining the shelves. He gestured for her to sit. "I have thought long about how to repay you," he began. "Money alone cannot measure the value of what you did. You saved my air, my blood. For that, I owe you more than riches." Nene shook her head. "Sir, I did not do it for reward. I only wanted to protect her." "I know," he said, his voice warm. "That is why it means even more. But I will not let your sacrifice go unrecognized. From today, you will no longer serve in this house as a maid. Instead, you will go back to school. I will sponsor your education to any level you desire." Her eyes widened. "School? Sir, do you mean it?" "Yes," he replied firmly. "You once dreamed of being a nurse, did you not? I want you to pursue that dream. My family will stand behind you." Tears filled Nene's eyes. She had buried that dream long ago, convinced it was impossible. Yet here it was, revived by the very man she served. "Thank you, sir," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You have given me back my future." Weeks later, the mansion returned to normal, but the bond forged that night remained unbroken. Little Chiamaka grew more attached to Nene, clinging to her whenever she was near. Even Madame Ifeoma, once distant, now sought her company, confiding in her like a sister. The staff, too, looked at her differently. They no longer teased her about carrying the baby on her head. Instead, they said with admiration, "This is the woman who faced death for our princess." But Nene remained humble. She never boasted of her courage, never demanded recognition. She only thanked God that the child was safe and that her own heart had been strong enough to endure. One evening, as she rocked Chiamaka to sleep, she whispered, "One day, you will grow old enough to hear this story, and when you do, remember that your life was worth every risk. Remember that love can make even the weakest person strong." The baby stirred, her tiny hand reaching up to clutch Nene's finger. Nene smiled, her heart overflowing with quiet joy. Months later, when visitors came to the mansion, Chief Okoro would often tell the story of that fateful night. He would point to Nene and say, "This young woman is the reason my daughter is alive today. In this house, she is not a maid, she is family." And every time he said it, Nene's heart swelled with gratitude. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen, truly valued, not for the work she did, but for the person she was. She had come to Abuja as a poor village girl, carrying little more than hope. Now she was part of a family, her dreams restored, her courage remembered. The night of terror had ended not in tragedy, but in a new beginning, and at the center of it all was a simple truth. Love and bravery can change the course of a life. The story of Nene teaches us that true courage is not measured by strength or wealth, but by the willingness to protect what is innocent and precious, even at the risk of one's own life. Love and loyalty can turn the simplest person into a hero, and selflessness often opens doors to honor and recognition that money cannot buy. In a world filled with greed and fear, it is the brave and compassionate heart that leaves a lasting legacy. Thank you for watching this story on Afrotales TV. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment, and share with friends and family. We have more beautiful stories coming your way, so subscribe and stay tuned. See you in the next one.